hope you're all doing well. Today I'm trying something new on my channel. As someone who likes sometimes watching true crime videos, I thought it'd be a bit different to watch some true crime on my channel. So I would like to thank Charl Louise for letting me react to her true crime on her channel. I really appreciate it. And guys, if you want to check out Charl Louise's channel, I will leave her link in my description down below. Maybe before my video or after my video, go check out her videos as well. Give her some love, give her some support. Okay guys, so the true crime video we're going to be reacting to today from Charl Louise is the BTK killer, 17 years of horror. Okay guys, without further ado, let's get straight into this video.
Hi, I'm Charl Louise and welcome back to Murder, Makeup and More with me, Charl Louise, where I sit and talk about a true crime case and I do my makeup at the same time. If you're new, I'd really appreciate if you would subscribe.
Yes guys, please subscribe to our channel if you like true crime.
Please be kind. I noticed that a lot of my viewers aren't subscribed, so if you are one of those people, please make sure that you subscribe and then you won't miss a video. Notification bell on it, it'll let you know every time I drop an upload, and that is
do all she says to you guys.
Sometimes
for my channel and her channel as well.
On a Thursday or a Friday. If you're wondering why I sit and do my makeup whilst I'm talking about true crime, that is purely just because I need something to keep my hands busy. I can't sit still. I was literally just sat on my hands when I was filming the last part of the video. So if you're thinking, well, you've stayed pretty still in the last part, then it's literally because I sat on my hands like this so that I can't just... But yeah, if I didn't do something with my hands, I'd be sat flapping about the whole time, or I'd be sat on my hands and they'd go numb. So, you know... And yeah, I'm keeping that side of my brain occupied while the other side is talking about true crime. So if you have any case suggestions, please make sure to drop a comment, message me on Instagram, or send me an email. My email address is in the description and it is on my banner as well. And I will make sure to add it to the list for you. I might actually make a Google Doc so that people can add a case suggestion on that way. A good way to do it, but yeah, I'll look into that. You might also notice that I have got a little festive sign in the background. I don't actually know if it shows very clearly on camera, which is really annoying. I bought it specifically for that. It says "'Tis the season." I think it might be clearer once I've put it on the wall and it's kind of got a background. But it says "'Tis the season" because it's November now, so I was thinking let's get a little bit festive but not so festive that I've got a tree in the back. But there will be a tree at some point. Every video it's going to get more and more festive. You're just going to see new things being added. So that's tame for today. And just a reminder that all information that I gather for these videos is from readily available sources online. I just compile the information and blurt it out while I'm sat here doing my makeup. I retell the case in a way that I like to listen to it. I like to give as much background information as I can. Personally, I don't go too in depth on the gory side. I do try and keep it as respectful as possible for the families and for the victims. Ultimately, these videos for me are about raising awareness and remembering the victims of the cases, not for glorifying the killers. So exactly that's what I'm looking for. But today's case, we are going to be talking about Dennis Rader, who is also known as the BTK killer. BTK stands for bind, torture, kill. So I'm sure you can imagine that this is a particularly horrific case, and sadly at least 10 victims lost their lives, and more almost lost their lives. And yeah, it is a truly horrific case. It took a long time for Rader to get caught, and it's such a series of events. There's a cat and mouse game where he's toying with the police. It really is frustrating and an upsetting case. So just to forewarn you, I always leave a content warning, but yeah, this is a rough case, and my heart just goes out to all of the families and anyone that was impacted by this case. But anyway, I will get on with the facts of today's case. Dennis Rader was born on March the 9th in 1945, and he was born in Pittsburgh, Kansas, but he grew up in Wichita. His parents were Dorothea and William Rader. He was the eldest of 4 sons. Now, there wasn't a lot about Rader's childhood and early years, but what he did say was that he felt that he was ignored by his parents, and in particular he felt ignored by his mother. Apparently his parents both worked a lot and in turn kind of emotionally neglected the children and didn't pay them much attention, and in particular he felt that his mother didn't pay him enough attention. Now, it said that from a young age Rado began to show sadistic sexual fantasies, and he actually fantasized about trapping and torturing women.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna be pausing this video sometimes to give my thoughts, give my opinions, but when I have been watching videos like from like the true of like America, them kind of things, or even like I watch Asian dramas, most you probably know I do. Probably half of you on here are Asian drama fans as well. But when I ever have watched them kind of shows, it does say or does show if it's a child that the child will like show or display that they have these kind of tendencies at a young age, like killing animals, and then they graduate to killing humans. I don't know if it could be like if they had like a chromosome missing. I haven't really looked into it. I don't want to, but that's just my opinion. Straight back to the video, guys. Oh, and also, guys, please leave your thoughts about this case in the comment section down below at the end of the video. And please, guys, try and keep it as respectful as possible in the comments as well. I would truly appreciate it.
Women, and in particular helpless women. Now, just as a side note, I know that people have different kind of, from our close your ears if you're watching, people have kind of different sexual kinks, and you know, people are into BDSM, those kinds of things. Isn't to shame people like that, but Rado was not interested in a consensual type of BDSM. He just wanted to torture helpless women, and that is just disgusting.
It is.
Now, Rado would actually start to act on these
horrendous
fantasies, and that included tourism, where he would expose himself in public, and autoerotic asphyxiation. I mean, I had to Google these things while I was researching this because I actually didn't know what some of it meant. So my search history is looking a little.
It's more likely effed up because of this.
Yeah, essentially kind of strangulation, self-strangulation whilst masturbating, and he would cross-dress, is how they phrased it, and spy on his neighbours. So he was essentially like a peeping Tom, look through the neighbours' windows.
I was just gonna say, like, someone that would show themselves in public, like, as we would call a flasher. So he would do that, and then he would dress up, and then just basically how I picture it would be like him having binoculars, spying on like the neighbours through the window of like their house with his binoculars. But damn, he went through all that just to some people, I don't know.
Whilst they were getting undressed, and he was just stood there like in a dress.
It's weird.
Women's clothing and had like women's underwear on.
No.
Another thing, sadly, which is actually seen in a lot of serial killers. So you might not be too surprised by this if you are into true crime and have listened to a lot of different cases. But he exhibited what's known as zoo sadism. Which, again, I had to Google what that meant because kind of could put two and two together, but essentially that is the killing and torturing of small animals, so cats, dogs, rabbits, whatever he could get.
Oh no, I like cats.
Which is just absolutely disgusting.
I don't have it myself, but
someone would want to do that. It just blows my mind. I mean, hunting's one thing, but he was going and physically torturing these animals and wanting to cause them to suffer just for his own kind of gratification. He was getting some kind of thrill out of it. He graduated from Wichita Heights High School. I just think American schools have such interesting names, like Wichita Heights. It kind of sounds like something out of a film. But he graduated from that high school, and he would also attend Kansas University. Apparently he received kind of mediocre grades and he did drop out after a year. He joined the US Air Force, and he was in Air Force for 2 to 3 years. And when he was discharged from the Air Force, I actually see why he was discharged from the Air Force, but anyway, he went to work at a supermarket on a meat counter, which is, you know, quite a change from being in the Air Force. Sorry if you can hear banging in the background, there's fireworks outside because in the UK we have bonfire night.
I'm in the UK too.
The history of that right now because we'll be here all day. Maybe do a video on it. But yeah, Basically everyone sets off fireworks on November 5th. I don't know what the day is, but people do it literally for like the whole month for some reason. So,
yeah.
yeah. If you hear banging and popping in the background, that's what that is. And they had 2 children named Kerry and Brian. Now, Raider would actually return to education in 1973. He did an associate degree in electronics engineering, and then he went and did a Bachelor of Science, majoring in administrative justice in 1979. Just a side note, I mean, being from the UK, our education system's a lot different to the US.
It is.
I don't know if it's a lot different, but kind of more like the phrasing of things is just so different. I mean, I just find it interesting how like when Americans go to college, they call it university, we call it here, that you have like a subject that you like major in and then you do other subjects as well. I don't know if that's all over the US that it's the same, but whenever I kind of read about anything or watch TV, it's always like they major in something. Whereas in the UK, like I studied law, so that meant that I just did law. You can do like combined subjects, but it's more rare. You typically would just do one subject, so you might do like English or law or, you know, whatever. But yeah, it's always like you see that they like majored in something and then they like cover other things as well. I just find that quite interesting. I know that actually most of my viewers are American, so if any of you want to kind of explain that to me in the comments how that works, because like, do you just pick other topics that you want to do as well? I'm just interested to know how it works. So Raider was kind of known as just being like a relatively normal guy. You know, he's married, children, nice family, seems like a really nice guy, very friendly and approachable. He is part of the church, part of Boy Scouts, and yeah, he's just kind of like an active member of the community. This just kind of brought me back, I don't know for anyone else, but like John Wayne Gacy, and I'm sure you will have heard of him, just kind of how they're kind of like an active pillar of the community and they're so involved in, you know, all the different things community-wise, which they're kind of just like hiding in plain sight, you know, like people would never suspect them because they're such normal, like on the outside they just seem like such normal people. I always find that quite fascinating. But yeah, he was kind of just considered to be a normal family man who was a churchgoer and yeah, just like an all-round nice guy. No one ever would have suspected him of committing the heinous crimes that he committed. Now, Raider actually had over the years a multitude of different jobs, and he even worked for a security company installing security alarms. And this was around the time where people were actually fearful of the BTK killer, so they were actually wanting to get these security alarms fitted, you know, because of him, and he was the one going to fit them, which is just so scary. I'm going to get into the first victims of Dennis Raider, and just to forewarn you, it is horrifically sad and brutal.
Yes, I also put a warning in this video. If you guys are sensitive to this by any means, you do not have to watch the rest of this video. Alright guys, get straight into this madness.
And yeah, I've read about this case before and I've watched videos on this case, and honestly it just never gets easier hearing about the horrific death of these people and the brutal, disgusting acts that Raider committed. So the first victims were the Otero family, and they had recently moved to the area. They'd only been living in the area for around 6 months, I believe, at the time. So they were relatively new to the area. It was the parents, which were Joseph Otero and Julie Otero, and their children, and they had 5 children. Now, on the day that the case takes place, 2 of their children were home, which was Joey and Josie. Their other 3 children were actually at school. So Joseph Otero was 38 at the time of the case, Julie Otero was 33, and Joseph Jr. or Joey was 9, and Josephine Otero, or Josie as she was known, was 11. Now, Raider had actually targeted the family 2 months prior to their murder, and he had seen Julia taking the children to school and had essentially stalked them and in their routine over the course of the next 2 months. So on the day of the murder, Raider actually cut the phone line so that they would be unable to call for help, and He approached the property, and as he did, Joey was actually letting the family dog outside. And as Joey was doing this, Radar would force his way into the home. He held a gun and basically said that he was a wanted man to frighten the family. And he made them get down onto the floor before then taking them into the bedroom. And he was holding them at gunpoint this whole time. Now, once he'd led the family into the bedroom, he would bind them with rope. Joseph and Joey were on the floor, and Julia and Josie were on the bed. The wrists of Joseph and Julia had been restrained with rope, and a bag had been placed over Joey's head to suffocate him. Joey actually managed to bite a hole into this bag. Unfortunately, Radar noticed what he'd done and he placed another bag over his head. Now, this caused Joey, sadly, to slowly suffocate. Now, Radar attempted to strangle Julia, but she did regain consciousness, and as she woke up, she was obviously frantic, and that's when Radar strangled her to death with a rope. Now, at this point, both parents were dead, as well as Joey, and Radar then turned his attention to Josie. Now, Radar led Josie downstairs to the basement, and just can't imagine how frightened she must have been at this point. She knows that he's just killed her parents, and she likely will have seen that, and her brother, and I just can't imagine how terrified this little girl must have been. And what is so sick is that Radar has a daughter. He has a little girl, and he doesn't care. He has saved this little girl till last, making her watch him kill her whole family, knowing that she's going to be next, and knowing that no one can protect her. And it's just absolutely sickening, disgusting, horrible man. Now, sadly, it would be the Otoro's three other children that would find their family, and Charlie Otoro, who was the eldest and he was 15 at the time, said that he had...
Alright guys, I'm giving an opinion on my thoughts on the part that Charl and Louise talked about. I could not imagine being the children of the parents, like coming back, finding your parents dead, like in your own home. I feel more like we'd have to get some kind of counselling or some kind of therapy to help get through this. Sometimes like it takes like how many years to get how much therapy for that kind of like finding your parents like that kind of memory will always probably still sticks with them, and probably still sticks with them till this day. I don't even know why some people do this. I don't know.
Gone back to the family home, he'd noticed that the dog was still in the back garden, and he said that that was kind of out of the ordinary. He wouldn't usually be out there, and he'd gone into the home and noticed that his mum's purse was out on the counter, and it was kind of tipped upside down with the contents spilled out. And again, he said that just was not typical of his mum. She was very tidy. She wouldn't just throw her bag down with all of the items spilling out of her bag. And at the same time, this is when Charlie's younger sibling would shout Charlie and say that mum and dad were playing a bad trick on them, and Charlie would go up, and this is where he would find his mum and dad deceased. I just can't imagine how horrific that scene must have been for Charlie and his siblings to witness. And Charlie actually described it like his heart had been ripped out of his chest, and he just knew his life was never going to be the same again. Now, Charlie and his siblings ran to the neighbours, and that's when they called the police, and that he thanks God every day that they didn't discover the body of their younger brother and sister. They had not discovered the bodies of Josie and Joey, and I think that's kind of the only good thing to come out of this, that they hadn't had to witness that. But I just can't imagine how horrific it must have been for them to have had to have witnessed their parents there. Charlie described his dad as an outgoing, funny, jovial kind of guy, and he said that his mum was a loving, caring Catholic woman, and he described her as a mother first. And I think as a mum, I can only imagine that that's one of the best kind of compliments your child could give you, that you're a mother first, you know, that you care about your children that much, that you're their mum first before anything. And I think that's just a great testament to who they were as parents, and It's just so horrifically sad
It is
for the
horrifically
family.
sad.
On the 4th of April 1974, Radar would break into the home Kathleen Doreen Bright, who was 21 years old at the time. Now, what Radar hadn't anticipated was that Kathleen's younger brother was actually there. Her 19-year-old brother, he was actually present at the property as well. Now, Radar had a gun and he just thought, right, okay, well, he's gonna have to hold them at gunpoint and, you know, kill both of them. Now, Radar attempted to strangle Catherine and apparently he also stabbed her. Now, Kevin was actually strangled and shot in the head, but by some miracle, he managed to play dead, and when he got an opportunity, he actually managed to escape, and he would go on to survive. In October 1974, this is when Radar would actually reach out to police for the first time, and, you know, it's kind of unusual for a serial killer to want to do this because, you know, typically they're going to want to under the radar and they're not going to want to draw attention to themselves and potentially risk getting caught. Radar really likes attention, and you will see that as the case goes on. Basically, what had happened is some boys had claimed that they were the ones that had killed the Otaro family. Radar did not like this because this was somebody else getting attention for something that he had done. So essentially what Radar did, he reached out to the local newspaper, Wichita Eagle, and directed them to the Wichita Public Library. He's very cryptic in the way that he does things, by the way. He tries to be super clever in how he gives his hints and tricks, you'll see as we go along. But yeah, he basically directs them to a book in the library where he's left a note for the police to look at. And it essentially says, these boys are not responsible, I am, they're just trying to get publicity from my crime. And he provides information that is not public knowledge just to prove that it was him, so that the police know that basically he is the one that did it, not those boys. And he doesn't want anyone else getting any credit for his hard work. And this is the first time that he referred to himself as BTK. So he basically said, find them, torture them, kill them, I'm the BTK killer. And he gave himself a couple of other nicknames. Basically, he was really looking for this media attention. He wanted it to be in the newspapers, like, BTK killer. He was really desperate for people to fear him and to be talking about him. March 17th, 1977, Shirley Ruth Relford, who was 25 at the time, was sadly found dead in her home in Wichita. Now, this is another horrific one, they're all horrific. Shirley was home with her 3 children, and Radar had stormed into the home, held them at gunpoint. He had put the 3 children into the bathroom and locked them in, and then he had taken Shirley into the bedroom where he bound her to the bed with rope, then strangled her with rope whilst placing a plastic bag over her head, all while the children were screaming for their mum. Now, Radar had intended to kill the children, but thankfully they actually managed to escape. But sadly, much like with Kevin, who had escaped, the description that they were able to give sadly just wasn't enough for the police to be able to figure out who this person was and to create enough of a description, a good ID on the person. December the 8th of 1977, Radar would find another victim. He had stalked a young woman who he wanted as a potential victim, and he had followed her home. Now, when he went to her door, nobody answered, so what he did was he cut the phone lines, broke into the home and decided to wait out for her. And when she got home, to find Radar in her kitchen. I just can't imagine how terrifying.
I'd be freaked out if I find that guy in my kitchen.
Somebody there, you know, it's just absolutely terrifying. Now, this young lady was Nancy Jo Fox. She was 25 years old. She was so young, and Radar described her as being like the perfect victim, which really grinds my gears. I mean, he loved that she was so terrified that she was completely submissive, and I can only imagine that was just out of pure fear. She just didn't dare fight back because she was just so frightened, and he liked this. He liked the fact that she was compliant and she just went along with his demands because she was just too terrified not to. And before killing her, Radar told Nancy that he was responsible for the Otaro killings, and I just found this strange. I mean, maybe this was him knowing that he could tell her and she can't tell anyone. Maybe it was him wanting to scare her. I don't know, maybe he knew that he could just finally get it off his chest to somebody and she was never going to be able to tell someone. Either way, it's just disgusting, and I can only imagine how terrified Nancy must have been in that moment when he said that, because, you know, at that point, if she hadn't have figured it out before, she now knew that he was capable of murder and that he was more than likely going to kill her. And sadly, Raider would kill Nancy as well. Now, after killing Nancy, Raider actually called the police from a payphone and basically said, "You'll find her body." And it's like he wanted them to find her. To him at this point, this is becoming a real fun game for him. If the victims don't get found, that's no fun for him. He wants to be in control and he wants to kind of, you know, he's already direct.
Sorry guys, this is when Charl Louise said that he likes the control. I don't think it pertains to all serial killers, but I think these kind of people, they like the chase, they like the thrill of like, oh, the police might catch me. Like this close to catching them, and then they just, I think it's like a sight thing. I don't understand it myself, but that's what I think.
The police to where they need to go to find the next victim before they can get the chance to find them. He always wants to be like one step ahead and thinks that he is, you know, the most intelligent person in the room. So on the 10th of February in 1978, Raider had sent another letter, and he'd actually sent this to a television programme called Cake, I believe it was. He'd referred to himself as the BTK, and at this point he's getting a bit peed off because no one's giving him any attention. So he's annoyed because the media are not reporting him. He's not in the newspapers, he's not on the front page. So he's annoyed and he's like, unless I'm getting in the news, I'm going to keep killing people. And he basically said, how many more people do I have to kill before I get some media attention? I think again this kind of draws us back to the fact that yes, he is a sadistic sexual deviant, but besides that, he is also clearly, he is craving attention. And I don't know, maybe this could stem back to his childhood where he says that.
I was just about to mention what Charl Louise is probably going to mention. How he didn't have the attention that he thought that he should have been getting from his mum, like from his parent. It's like when he became a serial killer as an adult, he was going to the newspapers, to the media, because he wanted the attention that he wasn't getting when he was a child from his parent. Like, as someone myself, that's not like this guy, I can't say I completely understand why he went to kill people and then he was looking to the media and to the newspapers to put him on the front page because he wanted that attention. But I don't think we're all meant to understand why these people go on and do what they do. To be honest with you, it's like some people do say, now I don't think it's proven, but I've heard some people say, like, some people could be born that way. But I'm finding it sometimes hard to believe. But it's not far fetched. Like, it's like takes that one thing to set that person off, and then they go and do what they do. Like, hence him killing people. Like him killing people, him wanting to get the newspapers, getting in the media because of the attention he wanted. He thought if he got in the media and gone into the newspapers, like, about what he did, he thought that that probably could have filled the void of the attention that his parent wasn't giving him. That's just what I think, guys. Let me know what your thoughts about that in the comments below.
He lacked any attention in the family home. I mean, he's actually going to the lengths of killing people, not only to fulfill his kind of sadistic sexual urges, satisfy his desire for attention. I mean, I'm no psychologist, but it just seems like kind of lack of attention he had in his childhood has now manifested itself in such a way. He is going to the most extreme lengths to try and get that bit of attention.
Get that attention they would like them to.
Now, 53-year-old Maureen Hedge was found on May the 5th, 1985. Rader had actually murdered her on April the 27th. He had taken her body, and I believe this is the first time he'd done this, but he had actually taken Maureen's body, he had taken it to the church he was a part of, and he had posed her body in the church and taken suggestive, explicit pictures of her, which is just horrific. And then he just dumped her body at the side of the street like she was just nothing, and this is where she was later discovered. On the 6th of September 1986, this is where Rader would find his next victim. So he had actually approached the home of Vicky Lynn Wergel, I believe it is, aged 28, and he was pretending to be a telephone repairman. He forced his way into her home and strangled her with her own nylon stockings. Again, Rader posed her and took pictures of her, which is just absolutely disgusting. Now, Rader's final victim was Dolores Erline Davis, and she was aged 62, and this was on January the 19th of 1991. And Dolores had been found dead, and she had been strangled to death with pantyhose, which I believe in the UK is like tights. The years that this has spanned over, and he's just getting more and more cocky. Each victim is becoming a new game for him, and he adds something on each time, does something slightly different, moves them around, tries a different method of strangulation. It's just like fun to him, and that is why I find him one of the most disturbing serial killers that I've ever personally looked into before. I mean, alongside the likes of John Wayne Gacy, Jack the Ripper, who I think he probably does actually get a lot of inspiration from Jack the Ripper, to be honest. And maybe I'll cover Jack the Ripper one day, but obviously that is an unsolved crime. But he's kind of following this Jack the Ripper game where he's sending in these letters to the police, and it's all fun for him. And that's what Jack the Ripper did. He sent letters to the police, kind of very cryptic, and he's kind of playing with them. It's like a cat and mouse type thing. And Rader seems to be copying that, doing the same thing. So not really very original, Rader, not really that smart. What's strange as well is that Rader just seemingly stopped his killing spree after he had killed Dolores, and he seemed to stop killing from 1991. And I was actually reading something on the FBI site actually about kind of like common misconceptions of serial killers, and it was saying about that we have this assumption that because someone's a serial killer they can't stop killing. That's not the case, and I mean it may well be for some serial killers, but all of them, and I think Rader's a great example of that. I mean, from 1991 he has not killed anybody, and he'd been killing from 1974 where he killed the Torres family. So you know, he'd been killing for those years. Some of them were in closer succession than others, but that he's been able to just stop when he felt like it. Maybe it got boring for him, maybe he just didn't fancy it anymore, who knows. But 2004 came round, and still no one had figured out who the BTK killer was. And at this point the case had actually gone cold. But obviously Rader didn't like this, because that means that the attention's diverted away from him and no one's speaking about it anymore. And he begins his communications again. I'm not going to sit here and reel off all the little games that he played and in depth with exactly all of the interactions, because in a way I almost feel like he'd like that. He'd kind of like people talking about the way that he did it and almost think it's kind of like glorifying.
I was going to say glorifying,
or,
if you wouldn't want to glorify what he did.
I don't know, not to say that if somebody talks about it it's wrong, but for me personally I just think he'd probably like. So just to give you a general overview, it was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, cat and mouse. And he's essentially saying, you know, I'm still around, if you don't catch me I'm going to kill someone else, it's going back and forth. So he actually claimed at this point that he had taken another victim, that the police actually hadn't connected to the BTK at this point. So this was Vicky Wergel, who I'd mentioned before, the lady where he had pretended to be a telephone repairman or something like that. And yeah, he basically said, I killed her, by the way. And they'd actually obtained DNA from under her fingernails, but at the time science wasn't advanced enough to test this. And then when they had run some tests against men in the local area, they hadn't been able to find a match. and you know, they actually did have DNA from under her fingernails, and this is where she'd obviously tried to fight him. In a nutshell, lots of communication back and forth. However, Raider would actually cause his own demise because of these silly games he was playing, and he really was not as smart as he thought he was. He really thought that he could outsmart the police, and that his game was, you know, completely solid and he was not going to get caught. But it would be the most stupid thing that would get him caught out. When I first listened to this case and first looked at it, I thought, surely not. Like, surely you could not be that stupid, but here we go. So, as Raider had been sending a lot of stuff across to the police, basically, a lot of letters, and so he says to the police, instead of finding out another way, for some reason, he asks the police, again, not the brightest crane in the box. So he says, if I send you information on a disc, will you be able to track it back to me? Or, so he's like, no, we won't be able to do that. So he does, he sends them across this disc, and would you know, and essentially there's data on there that shows who he is. Essentially there's information on there, there's a Word document, and this document specifically refers to the Christ Lutheran Church, sorry if I've said that wrong, and yeah, essentially this document was last edited by Dennis. How silly. So you know when you save a Word document, it'll say last edited by Dennis was the last one to edit it. What's Raider's first name? Dennis. So the police are like, right, Dennis, Christ Lutheran Church, Google, and would you know who the president of the church council was? It was Dennis, it was Raider. So straight away they look at him and they're like, we've got him. But at this point, obviously the police are like, right, we know it's him, but we need more information. Like, if this is going to go to court, we need as much information as we can get, essentially, just so he's going to go down. So they start to gather up more information. When he's been doing this back and forth cat and mouse, there was something to do with a cereal box where he'd put it in someone's car. Honestly, the things he was doing, it's just... Basically, they had seen a car on CCTV, so there was like surveillance footage of him in this car park when he was dropping off this box, whatever, and it was like a black Jeep, and they went to Dennis Raider's house after they'd found him through the church. What car was on the drive? It was a black Jeep. So they're like, got you. So we've got some circumstantial evidence there. Now, let's try and get some DNA evidence. They're trying to get DNA evidence off him. They're kind of waiting for him to, you know, drop a cigarette, coffee mug, something like that that's got his DNA on. They just can't, because they want to try and match this DNA back to the DNA that was found under Vicky's fingernails. So what they decided to do was very clever, actually. Now, as you may remember, Dennis has a daughter, and Dennis's daughter had actually had pap smear, which is what they call it in the US. In the UK, we call it a smear test. And this obviously includes a swab of your DNA. Obtain a sample of this DNA, and they run this DNA and it shows up as a familial match. So essentially, whoever this is matched to is likely her father or very, very close blood relative. Bang, they've got their guy. They close in on Raider, and as he is driving near his home, they arrest him. As they arrest him, the police actually said to him, do you know why we're arresting you? And he just said something like, oh, I have my suspicions. Like, honestly, I hate this man. He's so cocky and it's just so annoying. But Raider would actually confess to all 10 murders, but that is all he would confess to, because he has been suspected of more, which I will go into in a second. But yeah, Raider would admit to all 10 murders and he would be sentenced to 175 years.
Wow.
So it was 10 consecutive life sentences, which amounts to 100.
Deserve them years, to be honest with you.
He's never seen the light of day again. And apparently he has to be kept in solitary confinement for his own safety. He gets an hour a day where he can have rec time, they call it, where he can go outside. But other than that, he has to stay in solitary confinement on his own. He does get like a TV and a radio, but yeah, I mean, whatever. He's on his own, he's miserable. I hope that's it really for him. Now, there are further suspected victims, and it actually came out in 2023, so last year, that there's new evidence emerging that Raider was involved in other murders, and he is actually suspected of potential murder of Cynthia Dawn Kenny, who at the time was 16, and she was actually at a laundromat, which is where you go to wash your clothes. That was the last time she was seen, was leaving that laundromat and getting into a car with somebody. And apparently police have kind of figured out that around this time, Ryder was actually in the area. So he was at a Boy Scouts trip, I don't know what you call it, and he was around that area. Also, there was a bank across the street from the laundromat that needed new security alarms to be fitted, and Ryder left the company that was doing it, and he was kind of like the regional person that would do that. So he was kind of there at the time where this happened. And in his letters, spiel he'd written to the police, whatever, he had actually specifically referred to the fact that he wanted to kill someone in a laundromat, which is so specific and weird. But yeah, he is just a bit odd. Hasn't been very forthcoming in regards to this, and I mean, you might be thinking, oh, but he did confess to all the other 10, so surely if he'd done this, he'd confess to this as well. However, as this was based in Oklahoma, if he was to be tried in Oklahoma, he could potentially face the death penalty. So investigators do kind of assume that the reason he's not so forthcoming about this is because he doesn't want the death penalty. But it's still being investigated at the moment, so if anything else comes up about this, then I will do a little update. But I mean, I'm sure we can all agree that either way, there is a disgusting, evil human being, and I think it's for the best that he's locked up for the rest of his life, and hopefully he's very miserable and has absolutely no friends and no social interaction. And now he really should know what it's like to get no attention. But now I just want to, of course, remember the victims of today's case. Yeah. Joseph Otero, Leah Maria Otero, Joseph Jr. or Joey Otero, Josephine or Josie Otero, Catherine Doreen Bright, Kevin Bright, Shirley Relford, Nancy Jo Fox, Maureen Wallace Hedge, Vicky Lynn Wiggle, and Dolores Erline Johnson Davies. My heart honestly goes out to
all the victims, rest in peace,
and all the loved ones who lost their families in such a cruel and horrific way. And you know, as well to Ryder's family and friends who likely have no idea what horrific evil man they were associated with. And I think especially I just want to send love and prayers to Charlie Otero and his siblings who had the horrific experience of finding their parents brutally murdered in their own home. I cannot express how awful that must have been and how terrible I feel for them. And I really hope that they are, you know, living a happy life now, as happy as it can be, and that they are healing. And thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, I know today's case was horrible and I probably didn't go in as much detail as I could have, and some people will like that, some people won't, but I think it's important to remember that these are people, and sometimes I think going too far into the gruesome side can start to verge on being a little bit insensitive. You can access all that information, you can read about it. I don't necessarily want to like go right into detail on every last thing, and I don't want you to think that I've kind of missed things out just because I don't want to talk about it. It's just, yeah, some things I just prefer to leave. And information about this case is all readily available online, and if you want more in depth you can go read into it, particularly with, you know, kind of like I said before, I didn't really want to go into the whole logistics of everything that Ryder was sending to the police and going into the whole goose chase that was going on there and the games that he was playing, and that's purely because I just don't want to sensationalise what he did, and I don't want to kind of give any credit to him for the games that he was playing and, you know, the back and forth. I didn't really want to glamorise him in any way. Dennis Ryder is a very disturbed and evil individual, and yeah, I think there's just not a lot more that can be said about him really. Well, there probably is, but I'm not going to say on here. But yeah, I know that his family have spoken out. I know his daughter has. Again, I've kind of purposely left that out because I don't really want to delve into that. It's not really my place to sit and pick apart what his daughter says about her dad. I mean, ultimately, put yourself in their shoes. If you found out that your dad was an evil serial killer, it would be absolutely horrific. I do know from what I was reading, I think his daughter is actually assisting authorities with helping to find other victims, which again cannot be easy, but yeah, I I mean, there's a lot more information about that online. But thank you for watching today anyway, and please make sure to like the video, leave a comment, and make sure that you're subscribed. I know that a lot of people that watch my videos haven't subscribed, so please just make sure you do, and then you won't miss a video. And if you've got any case suggestions, leave me a comment, send me a message on Instagram, or drop me an email and I'll make sure to add it to my list. And finally, make sure to stay safe and have a lovely week.
Charl, Louise, for letting me react to her true crime videos. I really appreciate it. Okay guys, if you have liked this first true crime video reaction on this channel, give it a thumbs up. Also guys, please leave your thoughts about this case and what you thought about it in the comment section down below. Guys, please try and be as respectful as possible. And also please hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when I drop my other true crime video reaction, BL reaction, Asian drama review. Okay guys, until then, bye.